Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Retro Gamers Podcast, episode 174. Larry here.
And Anthony here.
What's going on, Ant?
The usual. Welcome back.
Thank you very much. Yes, been a long week. I was away last week. Charlie, thank you very much for the substitution, as always.
Thank you very much, Charlie. Had a lot of fun with his top 10 video game themes or scores,
sounds,
if
if you will.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes. No, it was definitely a good one. Actually, it was more like a top 15 because you guys had like your honorable mentions.
I know, like we were gonna narrow it down to 10, or at least, there's just no way to do it. There are so many, so.
Not at all, not at all. And I gotta, as always, I'll throw my 2 cents in. I think my favorite score is definitely Symphony of the Night. And then behind that, just iconic wise, would have to be the original Super Mario Brothers. Absolutely. And I think third place would be Contra. So
yeah. Well, I'm surprised you put Symphony of the Night ahead of Super Mario. I thought Mario would be the top one for you.
You know what it is? It's just more like if I'm gonna sit there and actually listen to it, like Symphony of the Night just has this soothing, somewhat ironically calming feel, some of the score to it. Just the way it's beautifully done. Whereas Super Mario Brothers is just iconic. It's only like a minute and like 4 seconds. So
but you know what? Sometimes that's all it takes.
That is true. But this week, so again, Charlie, thank you very much. It was the first time the two of you recorded together.
Yes. It was the first time. Yeah, it was the first time the two of us recorded, on our own. Every time I was out, Charlie would step in for me with you. But yeah, we've never recorded together, so that was a cool little first for us.
All right, fair enough. You always remember your first.
That is very true, and it was nice to have it was nice for him to give us a nice little throwback to the hashtag BB Sucks year that we had.
I still have that in my closet, so.
Oh, the virtual
my
one?
Virtual boy. Yep.
All 10,000 pieces.
I'm gonna one day. I'm gonna bring it back out to the world. Yep. It's alive.
Just think of it like a Lego set without the instructions.
Oh, ouch! And a soldering set for some reason.
Yes.
So so that was so good stuff last week. But with musical scores, and the beauty of what it sounds like. We're going to kind of probably some of the stuff we're going to talk about today kind of maybe takes advantage of that. We are going to, for a show that's very Nintendo heavy, and we don't do it on purpose. It's what we grew up with. It's me and Anthony we lean towards Nintendo. We're not going to, shy away from that. But there is a monumental anniversary that just passed that obviously both of us, we're part of. Both of us definitely owned games for it, and we're going to talk about the big old 20th anniversary of the PlayStation 2.
Yeah, kind of hard to believe it's 20 years, isn't it?
Look, it's hard to believe I'm going to be 40 in a few weeks. So I don't think about 20.
That's cute. As someone who's on the other side of 40.
No, if I handle 30 like I handle 40, it's going to be a fun podcast on April 5th. But
Larry, let's save the ambulance trips, okay?
The PlayStation 2, which it's got to be hands down one of, if not the, I'm not just talking about numbers, I'm just talking about how people generally feel about systems. One of, if not the top system of all time. The number of games that came out for it, the graphical upgrade from the original PS1. We're going to talk about a lot of this stuff, talk about the games. The fact that it was probably the first DVD player for a lot of us.
Yes.
The PS2 came with a lot of almost firsts and probably part of a lot of memories and a lot of exciting times in everyone's lives.
Yeah, it kind of hit, at least for us as gamers, I think it hit us somewhere, it hit us around the right age. Like, I was we were both in college at the time, I believe. 20s. Yeah, early 20s. And then on top of that, the games that were being released for it were like far more adult than anything Nintendo was doing. Sega Dreamcast also was, out at the time. I was like, but and it had some really cool games, but PlayStation 2 just really like with their third party developers, I think they just blew it all out of the water.
I think you kind of nailed it on the head, Anthony. Talking about just how like we were in our 20s, so we were getting older, so the games were getting older as far as like, now like M-rated games are really starting to
Yeah.
hit the nation, which, led to all sorts of problems and whatnots, but whatever. And as much as the PS1 had a cavalcade of amazing games, fun games, yeah, horror games like Resident Evil and more I'm not gonna say adult, but like Tomb Raider was more in depth as far as how to play the game.
Right.
The PS2, you're right, kind of graduated into this upper echelon, this more adult level where we got more detailed gaming, we got more mature rated games. I mean, just right off the bat, you think of PS2, what franchises do you think of? For me, I immediately think of GTA.
Yeah, I mean, GTA Grand Theft Auto, it got completely redefined on the PlayStation 2. When Grand Theft Auto 3 came out, I remember buying it not even knowing exactly what I was getting into because I'd never played the first two
Oh, you
games
never.
on the PlayStation. No, no,
Oh, okay. Did you even play it on Dreamcast?
no,
All
no.
right, so you never had a taste of GTA before this.
No, my first
Okay.
foray into it was GTA 3, and the whole idea behind like this kind of open world 3D environment type of thing was new to me. So, and then obviously once I got a taste of it, I was like, oh wow, I go, we need more games like this. Not necessarily the content of like, hey,
Carjacking.
kill, yeah, carjacking, kill people, take their money type of games. But in other words, this whole open world 3D kind of adventure was just amazing.
Forget the murdering hookers thing. This is
Yes.
an open world
Yeah.
franchise.
Well, no, murdering the hookers after you hire them. Remember,
It's true. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yes.
yeah, you hire them, you pay them, then you kill them and take your money back.
Yep. Well, as some people do. Yeah. So GT. Yeah, you're right. And actually, I didn't realize for some reason I thought you had the original and London even on the PS1 before that. So that's pretty that's pretty interesting. Let's kind of get into the first kind of the nuts and bolts, if you will, or soldering and wires of the PS2. So it officially came, which I could have sworn is this a North American anniversary or
No,
Japanese? 'Cause I could have sworn
no,
this came out in 2001.
no, it didn't come out. Sorry, didn't come out in 2001. It came out in Japan on March 4th, 2000. So
Okay.
we're talking about the 20th anniversary in Japan. It actually came out in North America October 26th of 2000. So it was still in
Okay.
2000, it was just later.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Yeah.
Do you want me to dive in? I have my whole retro spotlight thing ready, or do you want to hit up your notes, or what do you
I
want?
mean, mostly like I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna break it down. You know, as far as well, I don't want to step on your retro spotlight because I don't know how much detail you go into with the stats of the PS2. Like you talk like the innards of the PS2. Like you have
Yeah,
stuff like
I've got rundown of the innards, and I've also got the general background of the system and its launch and all that. So
I mean, do you want to do that now? Or you got that scheduled for a little
yeah,
later.
no, let's jump in.
Let's do it.
Let's jump in. My retro spotlight for Sony PlayStation 2. We haven't done a retro spotlight in a while, so
No, no. For so
uh,
long, I thought it was a mini segment.
no,
That's
no,
why
no.
I'm like, we're having a production meeting live on the podcast.
Well, I mean that just shows that one, we're amateurs, and two,
I'm in.
we like to free flow.
There is no
Um,
here, folks.
yes.
Go.
So Sony PlayStation 2, obviously developed by Sony. We talked about the release dates just now. Interesting. First thing that hit me when I was reading up on the PlayStation 2 is that the work on this original console actually began in late 1994, which was around the same time the original PlayStation was
Yeah,
released.
that's weird. I wonder if they were aiming for this to be the original PlayStation. You know what I mean?
No, probably not. I think again, if you go back to the history of the PlayStation, how Sony was originally developing it for Nintendo, and then Nintendo dumped them for Philips,
Mm-hmm.
so they just continued on with the PlayStation. When they were done with the original PlayStation and ready to release it, obviously they were already thinking future,
Mm-hmm.
so they were probably already they were already in development of the PlayStation 2 because it's like, well, we have to think that far ahead because at some
Yeah.
point the PlayStation will end its run and we need to come up with whatever's going to be next. So it just makes sense that
Hmm.
as they were ready to release the first one, they were already starting to develop the next one.
Okay.
That just makes sense as a company. So basically, it took them about 5 or 6 years before it actually hit shelf. So that's a nice long
Hmm.
development timeline, and it obviously it paid off because the PlayStation 2 was awesome. They began in late 1994. 1997 was actually when leaks started to come out about the PlayStation 2.
Okay.
And that's when we started hearing about a term I want to say was, yeah, I mean, it was a term that was first done by PlayStation because PlayStation was the first company to release back-to-back CD or DVD-ROM based systems.
Okay.
Before that,
It
Nintendo
was all
64
cartridges. Yeah.
was all cartridge before GameCube. Sega was cartridge before Dreamcast. So PlayStation 2
Before
was the
Saturn.
first. I'm
Before Sega
sorry.
CD.
Yeah, there was Saturn and Sega CD. My mistake. Um, but this was the first time we ever heard the term backwards compatibility.
Okay. Yes.
So in 1997, word started to leak out that the PlayStation 2 would be backwards compatible with PlayStation 1.
Which is
And of course,
huge.
which is a huge seller because you're basically telling your consumer every single game you've purchased for your original PlayStation, you do not have to get rid of when you get the next system.
Which, when I heard that, I gotta say, yeah, that was definitely a big time seller because, you know, you're right. There was no back. I mean, there was a little bit actually with what they call that uh the unit you'd plug into the Genesis to play like the Master System games and stuff like that.
Oh
You
yeah,
had that, but and some Atari 7200s took 5600 games and stuff
yeah,
like that. But not true backwards where you can go, all right, I can get rid of the PS1 because there was no thought of this retro system.
yeah,
Let me take the PS1, I'll sell it back to Funkoland for $13, and now I have the PS2 and just move forward from there. You're right.
exactly.
That was big time. And also, and you got to say, with it being backwards compatible, forget about the launch titles on the PS2. You already have a built-in market. Like, you already have games that you can play
Yeah.
this instead of waiting like a month or 2 months for a new game to come out, and you're playing the same game over and over again on a brand new system.
Exactly, and I think that was probably one of the major appeals for getting a PlayStation 2. I mean, at that point, it's like, wait, I get to play everything I already own.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
None of it goes to waste.
So backwards compatibility. It also started to the rumor started to go out that it may have possibly had a DVD player built in, which we'll get to.
Mm-hmm.
And also there was discussion in '97 about the internet being on
Wow.
the PlayStation 2,
I mean, that
which
makes
is
sense.
yeah, which is interesting though because
Yeah.
again, remember the internet was just blowing up in like the mid '90s, so it was cool to see that Sony was already looking towards taking advantage of that in some way. Um, so Sony didn't officially announce the PlayStation 2 until March 1st of 1999, so about a
Okay.
year, pretty much exactly 1 year before they were going to release it.
Again,
So
timing sounds about right.
yeah, timing sounds good. You got a year out, and it's like, hey, everybody, we got a PS2 coming,
Mm-hmm.
or a sequel to the PlayStation. So it launched officially in Japan on March 4th, 2000. And the console game and accessory sales on the first day pulled in, and again, remember, this is the year 2000,
Yeah.
$250 million day one.
Wow.
Day one.
That is mucho dinero. Well,
Yep.
yen.
And that would be, and remember, this is Japan only.
Yes.
$250 million, 980,000 units.
Wow. Day one.
Day one.
Holy cow.
And just for comparison's sake, remember this was March of 2000. A few months earlier, the first sixth generation console came out in the Sega Dreamcast on 9999.
Yes.
And when that first came out, that made, now granted, this is nothing to scoff at, but when you compare the two,
Mm-hmm.
$97 million on the first day, and 500,000 consoles sold within the first 2 weeks, not the first day.
Yeah.
So just apples to apples, you can see how much hype there was behind the PlayStation 2.
Probably not only hype behind the PS2, I think just Sony themselves. A lot of times they talk like with cars. A lot of times you like the insurance is high on a car or the price is high on a car because you're paying for the name of the car. Like,
Yep.
a Jeep or something, or like a Maserati or something like that. Depending on what it is what you pay for, not necessarily
Right.
itself. So, and especially in Japan, who's very with their electronics, very forward, especially back then. Hey Doc, look at this, made in Japan. So I think also just Sony, the word Sony carries a lot of clout with it as well. I mean, that's just me saying it, but I can see that happening also.
Yeah,
Help
exactly.
sales, yeah.
And then just another a note that I really enjoyed is that there were actually manufacturing delays on. They
Oh,
couldn't keep they couldn't keep up with the demand for the PS2 in Japan.
oh wow.
So there were a few manufacturing delays in terms of getting these things done. As a result of that, um, this is when the wonderful world of price gouging comes into play because in 2000 there was this young website that was really starting to take off called eBay, and people were selling the PS2 consoles on eBay for like over $1,000
Wow.
when they
Good
weren't
Lord.
available in because they weren't available in stores at a certain point.
And in 2000, you would think, how are they getting them?
Right.
Unless they were selling them straight from Japan.
Exactly.
So,
And then on top of that, well, and here's the other appealing thing about it, if you want to know why this thing sold so many units so quickly, this is a very key element at the time. DVD players were in their infancy, right?
absolutely.
They were only around for like two or three, a couple of years,
Yeah,
maybe
probably. I
two,
would
three
say so.
years,
Yeah.
2, 3 years. And if granted, people today can go and get a regular DVD player for like $25,
Oh,
right? You
yeah.
go in the store and get it
Joe
for like
Cheapo.
20,
Yeah.
20 yeah, for just standard DVD. At the time when DVD players were big and new, they
Price.
would cost what, six, eight, $800, $1,000 for a DVD player.
Yep.
I mean, they were
Yep.
super expensive. A PlayStation 2 had a built-in DVD player system,
Yep.
and the retail price on the market of September 2000 was $299. So even
Steal.
if so even if you weren't a gamer, the PlayStation 2 was appealing to you because you got a DVD player for a fraction of the cost of what a regular DVD player would go to. And I would even argue, this wasn't in the notes, I would even argue that because of the PlayStation 2, DVD players started to reduce
Oh,
price.
uh, uh, absolutely. I will agree with that 100%. Jump ahead a generation, the PS3. Of course, I bought the PlayStation 3 like a week before a major drop in price, like when it was still like $700, the
Yep.
PS3. But my justification for it was it's a $700 Blu-ray player that plays video games
Yep.
at a time where Blu-rays were expensive. So I'm
Yep.
like, all right, let me invest into this, and then the rest is history. But yeah, the PS, I am pretty sure the PS2 because I was in college. All right, no, we had a DVD player for the house, but my parents wouldn't let me bring it to college. So definitely the PS2 was my DVD player in college, absolutely. And then when I graduated, I gotta say, I don't think I've ever owned a regular DVD player. I think they've always been consoles, and the PS2 for a very long time was my DVD player of choice.
Well, and that makes sense. I remember owning a DVD player, but not, I mean, like, the family got one at one
Yeah,
point,
yeah,
but then when I was off on my own, they were
exactly.
more affordable. But again, to your point, the PS2 was the perfect DVD player for you.
Absolutely. I think it literally was. I think like when you compared the PS2 to a home standard DVD player, the PS2 just had better output, had better
Hmm.
read capability. It was
Yep.
just a far superior DVD player. So yeah, absolutely added to the sales.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. So then, so you got your PlayStation 2, which was also a DVD player. So now at the time for the sixth generation, you had your Dreamcast, that came out in '99. You had your PlayStation 2 in 2000. By March of 2001, Sega pulled the plug on the Dreamcast and they officially discontinued it March of 2001. It
Hmm.
was only on the market for about 18 months. Um, and it was, it had a good, it had a good 6 month or 7 month window before the PlayStation 2 came out.
Hmm.
But at that point, um, Sega was suffering from lack of third party. Sony had all the third
Oh
parties, so
yeah,
it was pretty easy to see how
it was
Sega
wicked.
won. Yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunately, Dreamcast, to me, the most underrated console ever released, wound up
Okay.
going out of business. And then the PlayStation 2 was on the market for a full 6 months before it had any competition from the GameCube or Xbox. Xbox and GameCube came out around September, October
Hmm.
of 2001. So they had a clear 6 months to just stock up on sales, which
Well,
is
that helps.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not
definitely huge.
not only sales, but again, with just getting all those games. I mean, the PlayStation 2 library is what, almost 4,000 games. I mean,
Yeah, it's an
so
insane number.
yeah, so that you're right. With that, what you call that window, that 6 month window of opportunity, you're just gonna take the ball and run with it. It's weird. Sometimes competition really breeds creativity, but here the PS2 just like, see ya, and just took off.
Yeah, it's crazy,
Yeah.
absolutely crazy. So, PlayStation 2, let's see, about 6,000 games, it looks
Oh,
like it
excuse
says
me. All
here.
right.
Oh
Someone's
well, no.
house.
I'm sorry. According to Wikipedia, my mistake. That was somebody else who wrote that. 3,000,
How dare they?
3,870
Oh,
games.
that was close. All
Yeah,
right.
so almost 4,000 games, which again is a huge library, and that does not include PlayStation 1 titles that you can play on it.
Oh, of course not. Yeah, that
Right.
is PS2 only.
Right.
Yeah, this
So,
juggernaut. All right.
yep. So PlayStation 2 is on the market for 6 months all on its own. Xbox and GameCube come along. In May of 2002, in order to stay competitive, Sony cut the price of the PlayStation 2 from $299 to $199,
I remember that.
which is what the GameCube cost at launch. The
Hmm.
GameCube came out $100 cheaper than the Xbox and PS2. So
Hmm.
PS2 a few months later, it's like we'll drop it to $199, stay competitive. And again, just sales, did really well. They did so, and then they in 2004 they decided to redesign the PlayStation
Yes.
because they wanted to make it smaller, easier, just a smaller console. And we got the PlayStation 2 Slim.
Hmm.
Um, they had only planned on releasing like a limited amount of these because again at the time it's 2004, the system's already been out for 4 years. They've already got the PlayStation 2 on the horizon. So
PS3.
they just yeah, I'm sorry, PS3.
That's right.
PS3 on the horizon, so they wanted to release just a smaller, less expensive version of the PlayStation. They released the Slim. The demand for the Slim was so high that they had to produce more of them.
I think I remember
Uh,
that.
yeah, so again, I mean, just catering to the success of the system. In terms of the specs, and
You
we've
know,
kind of what?
before you move on, I just want to talk about the Slim thing because
Yeah.
a lot of, it's like the only system to really not ever put out a Slim version is the original Xbox. Beyond that, every system has gone, I mean, that had a healthy shelf life
Mhm.
has in some way, shape, or form, you know, reinvented themselves, slimmed down. The Nintendo, the Super Nintendo, they had those the N64 never had one. Uh they had their redesigns. The Game Boy went through a
Yeah.
few of them. The Genesis. I mean, I remember going to
Oh
college,
yeah.
the Genesis 3.
Yep.
It was like an at games, really, that worked.
Yeah, it was tiny.
Um, but I remember when the PS2 Slim came out, when that happened, because I bought a Genesis 3 when I went to college, because I'm like, oh, I'm going to college. Let me just get a cheap It was literally $20, maybe 30. So when the Slim came out on PS2, I'm like, oh, who's gonna buy a PS2 Slim? Little did I know that I would buy the Slim version of every system
Mhm.
that comes out later on. Anyway, sometimes multiple times because the PS3
Yep.
came out with a few of them. But yeah, the Slim and the PS2 doing a Slim design just you know was smart because again, especially then, college dorm rooms, you got to fit a lot in. Less moving parts really. So it was a good idea with the Slim. It's just real quick, then we'll get to the stats. When I was at Game On the other week, they actually had a PS2 set up for the anniversary, the original PS2.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I haven't seen an original PS2 like working just in person in a long time. You know, just the sounds, the draw coming out, and everything. I was like, wow, that took me back.
Nice. Yeah, and PlayStation 2 Slim, I think I finally got my hands on one in, I want to say 2018.
Yeah, I got one. Actually, I think when I moved to the apartment here, I got one.
Yeah. And the only reason why I got one is because my original PlayStation that I bought at launch finally died.
There you go.
It lasted 18 years. That's respectable.
That's a run.
Very respectable. So the specs of the PlayStation 2, as we said before, it played DVD-ROM software. So most games were on DVD-ROMs because, again, the sheer size of a DVD-ROM. CD-ROMs held about 650 megabytes. DVD-ROMs at that point, I believe, were like 1.7 or 2 gigs around. Yeah. Right. So you were able to fit, obviously a larger game on a DVD-ROM. And then cool thing about the original DVD-ROMs that came out is that the opposite side. Now, if you know regular CD-ROMs, DVD-ROMs, they have that silver backing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, the silver, but the original PlayStation 2 discs were blue.
Yes, look at that. Kind of as
hello. Yeah, like there you are. So kind of like a blue purple.
Yeah.
A blue or purple kind of color on the back, which is really cool.
Kind of like the black of the PS1.
Yeah, kind of like the black of the PS1. But then what?
I was gonna say, which is literally and only for aesthetic purposes.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
They were just doing it to stand out. Eventually, they went to regular silver disc backings like everything else.
And when they did that, I remember when that happened, I'm like, that it's just like a little bit. I'm like, okay. You know, I guess all good things come to an end.
Well, I mean, it made the games a little bit cheaper.
Well, this is true.
Yeah, you didn't have to worry about them coloring the back of it. So memory cards on the PlayStation 2 were 8 megabytes.
Yes.
Not gigabytes.
Nope.
Megabytes.
Nope.
8 megabytes. PlayStation 2 came with 2 USB ports and 1 FireWire port. If you remember the good old FireWire.
It came with a FireWire port?
Some of them did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, some of them did. Originally, on the original PlayStation 2, you had to buy the internet as an accessory.
Oh, we can get into that later because I did that. Yeah.
Yeah. There was space for a hard disk drive edition.
Yep.
Especially for specific games. First one that comes to mind, Final Fantasy XI, needed the hard disk drive in order to play because of the volume of the game. They had what they called a graphics synthesizer in the game. And what that allowed it to do is it could render up to 75 million polygons per second.
There you go. That's a lot of polygon.
Which is huge because I think the original PlayStation was somewhere in the 5-figure range.
Yeah,
like in the tens of thousands.
That's why we got a very blocky Lara Croft.
That's right. Very blocky, very pointy.
Yeah.
The native output for a PlayStation 2 was at 480i or 480p.
Okay, which back then made sense.
Which right. However, some games actually supported upscale, depending on the TV you had and whatnot, up to 1080i, which is huge
really?
Back then.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Because I know they had back then they had what was called progressive scan, which I don't think necessarily pushed it. I'm just grabbing a PS2 game, curious if it shows anything. Which didn't necessarily, I don't think progressive scan necessarily bumped it up to like a 720 or a 1080. But what it did was it just squeezed the lines a little bit closer because we're talking original CRT screens, that drew the lines. So you got to remember that. And it just made it look a little bit crisper, which is why I use my Wii really as a GameCube because it automatically does that progressive scan upgrade.
Yes. All those things. And then the last thing for the internet support on the system, they had it supported both dial-up and broadband because remember at the time, dial-up was still very much a thing. Most people did not switch over to broadband in 2000.
No. Even afterwards.
Even after it. However, and this is interesting because again, this is the early stages of internet, like playing video games online or off of a console. Sony, there was no Sony PlayStation Plus or anything like that. Like how Microsoft came out with Xbox Live.
Yeah.
But for Sony, they left it up to the third party. The third party was responsible for any online gaming. So it was up to the third party to create the server, run the
Hmm.
servers and all that stuff. Sony had no hand in that on the PlayStation 2. Obviously, when the PlayStation 3 came around, they
They started changing it
they
up. Yeah.
started hosting. And
I
again,
No, I was gonna say, I remember with the online.
mm,
I got the online. I bought. Actually, it came with EverQuest, not even Final Fantasy.
oh yeah,
So
EverQuest, I remember that.
EverQuest online adventure, with the adapter, and I remember screwing in the adapter with a nickel.
Yep.
You put it in. And yeah, for me it was dial up, wasn't broadband. So I plugged that dial up in, played EverQuest for a little while, realized I hated EverQuest, but I had the online adapter now, and it would
Yeah.
go on at that infamous story about playing NBA 2K1 maybe, or NBA 2K. No, it had to be like, wait, when did the internet one adapter come out?
I don't know exactly
Oh,
when
okay.
it
I thought
came
you said.
out.
Anyway, shortly after the internet adapter came out, I was playing NBA 2K, and that's when my girlfriend called me, and I'm like, I'm in the middle of something here. She's like, "What are you talking?" Like and we got into like a fight on the phone while I'm playing NBA online. First like online game really I've ever played on a
Hmm.
console, so that was fun. But yeah, and I didn't really. Unfortunately, I didn't take advantage a lot of the online because of these MMORPGs I just wasn't into, like
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 11, EverQuest, and some of the other ones. But the potential was definitely there. I did it a couple of times. It was quite enjoyable, and for what it's worth, talking about EverQuest at least,
Hmm.
it held up. Even on a dial-up, it did what it had to do. I didn't really notice anything for 2000. Now it would probably look
Right.
slow as molasses, but back in 2000, it wasn't bad.
Well, you'll be happy to know, Larry, that I'm trying to find a specific date on this, but as of last year, the original EverQuest is still going.
Oh, I believe that.
Yep. So
I
over,
definitely believe that.
so like 20 years later, people are still playing this game, which is interesting. Um, anyway, and the last, oh yeah, no, it's definitely still running because the last expansion to come out for EverQuest was December 18th, 2019.
Really?
Yep.
Holy cow. That
So
I got to
it,
look into now.
so yeah, so it is alive and well.
And then
Um,
also, I just want to go back also to talk about the hard drive
yeah.
on the PS, because I also had the hard drive. I remember I ordered the hard drive with Final Fantasy. Again, tried it. Final Fantasy, just wasn't into it. But I got the hard drive. The only, I gotta say, the only downfall to the hard drive that I don't know why Sony did not take advantage of is you could not use the hard drive as a memory card. You
Right.
still had to use the memory cards, which is fine in itself, but when I was getting the hard drive, I'm like, oh, sweet, I can just store everything right then, and I don't have to worry about because I remember I had a memory card for the PS1 that I
Yep.
plugged into the extension port that was like 32 memory cards in one. So I didn't have to worry about anything anymore. That was the only complaint I had about the hard drive. Otherwise, again, it ran everything beautifully. Games that took advantage of the hard drive, like
Hmm.
installation stuff, ran beautiful. But it was kind of cool, just kind of slide in the hard drive, then you capped it off with the Ethernet, and it's almost like like 3 or 4 years later, or whenever those adapters came out, as you're plugging in the hard drive, you're like, now you're complete, because it was always
Yes.
just like there was a legitimate hole in the PlayStation 2 that had nothing in it.
Yep. Well, and just to point out, I think the reason why you couldn't use the hard drive as a memory card is just because of the hardware. Remember, you couldn't download firmware upgrades the way that
Oh, of
we
course.
do on our
Yeah,
systems today. So I think it would have needed a firmware upgrade to tell the PlayStation
probably. No, you're
2 to
exactly right.
move
Yeah,
saves to the hard drive. That's why you still had to
yeah.
use the memory card.
So,
Um,
but
and the last little bit that I wanted to share on the PlayStation 2 is that it is considered the best-selling console, like home
mhm,
console of all time. Over 155 million units sold worldwide as
there
of
you go.
March 31st, 2012. People were
Okay.
still people were still buying this system as of like 8 years ago, and they just stopped the count there. It's possible more were sold after that, but
Yeah.
155 million units, nothing to scoff at, obviously.
No, I
And it
bought
is
two of
the
them.
yeah, see, it is the best-selling console of all time, and that's my retro spotlight on PlayStation 2.
There you go. Let me ask you just a quick question.
Yeah.
Do you remember, like, what was like the first game? Do you remember that you got for
Uh,
the PlayStation 2?
ooh, no, I don't.
I
I
remember
definitely don't.
for me, one of the first was a game
Yeah.
called The Bouncer.
Mm.
It played kind of like Devil May Cry as far as the gameplay aspect.
Okay.
And I remember when I started playing that, I'm like, this system, it's gonna last. This system's got some magic to it, and kind of just took it from there.
Yeah, and I think it's funny too because now I'm just looking up the list of launch titles to see which one. Um, oh, that might have. Yeah, you know what? Now I do remember because there were two games I picked up at launch for the system because I'm looking at the list of what came out
Mm-hmm.
in October of that year, and there were a lot. It wasn't just like five or six. They came out
Oh
with like
no, there was a bunch of them.
there were like 20 or 30 games that came out at launch. But the two that I remember buying were NHL 2001 because I love my hockey. And then there was another game called Fantavision. I don't know if you remember.
Fantavision. I don't remember Fantavision.
Yeah, Fantavision. It was like a weird fireworks kind of.
Oh yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
those are the two games I remember off the top of my head. So I would assume it would one of those, and I'm guessing it was NHL 2001 that I played the most when it first came out.
Yeah, we're gonna take a moment here. We're just gonna take a break because we're gonna get into some stuff like top 10 PlayStation 2 games. But on the other side of this break in, I definitely have some games I want to mention, which may
Yeah.
be part of these top 10 sellers. That again, now that I think about it, and just literally right now that I think about it, just the impact some of these games had. When I remember we both bought these certain games and we're like, all right, this is kind of cool. And then just to see what they eventually became. So
Hmm.
we're gonna do that in a little bit. We're gonna take a break. So we will be right back.
All right, Larry, it is time for this week's Did You Know?
Did I
And
know?
what I don't know. Did you know?
There's a lot of stuff I don't know.
I know there is, and it is my responsibility to educate you. So this week's Did You Know? We're continuing on celebrating the 20th anniversary of PlayStation 2. So my Did You Know is usually just one key, fun fact or something that you may not know. This time I've got five quick ones about the
Oh,
PlayStation 2. So here are five fun facts about the PlayStation 2 that you might not know about.
I'll be the judge if they're fun or not.
Okay, fine. The first one is the last game ever released on the PlayStation 2. Last game ever released.
Hmm.
Any idea?
Oh, God. I'm gonna say genre wise, I'm gonna say it's like probably like that, like Just Dance or something. They tend to Just Dance wasn't
Yeah.
around at the time. Maybe
Well,
some sort of rhythm game.
all right. What year was the last game
Oh
made for
God.
PlayStation 2? What do you think?
2000. I'm gonna say like 2014.
Okay,
Something weird.
you're a year off.
Oh.
The last game ever released on PlayStation 2 was Pro Evolution Soccer on November 8th, 2013.
Oh, okay. Soccer game. That makes sense. Yep.
Yeah,
Europe always.
well, also, how those types of games would get released annually. I don't, because I think FIFA 2014 was technically the last game ever made for the PlayStation 2. It just got released earlier than Pro Evolution Soccer.
Okay.
So that was the last one. So I think you do know this one, but for some people who may not know, when you start up your PlayStation 2 and you see those white towers coming at you?
Yeah.
Do you ever notice how sometimes they were different or they weren't there?
Which no, I did. Which I
Okay.
never did in the past, but I know what you're getting at.
Yeah. So the reason why those towers would show up, those towers were actually how many game saves you had on your memory card. So if you had your memory card plugged in and there were 10 game saves on there, you would have 10 towers. If you did not have a memory card plugged in, no towers would show up on your loading screen.
Which is probably why I think a lot of people never notice it, because how many times would you take out your memory card unless you're going somewhere?
Exactly. Or how many times would you look at it and be like, hey, wait, I have one more tower this week than I did last week. What changed?
Wait
Why
a
is there
tick.
Exactly. So yeah, that was a cool thing about the memory card.
Okay.
For $200, you could have bought a kit for your PlayStation 2 to convert it into a Linux system.
Yes, and I actually talked about this when I was on great podcast listened to called the Technocrat Live. The first time I was on, because the host Matthew, big Linux programming. This guy knows his stuff, and he works with Linux. And I told him about the PS2. We kind of got into it a little bit, and that was kind of one of the first times you can do like a homebrew games on a home console, which is pretty cool. But so yeah, I definitely know. Oh. Also, that's how you got a hard drive with the Linux kit before the official hard drive came out for the PS2.
Yes. So you actually had the capability of a Linux computer, which is kind of cool.
I feel like there may have also been like a special edition PS2 for the Linux, like a blue one or something. I could be way off.
I am not sure about that. And then a couple more things. One, I did not know this, and I was shocked when I saw it. But the console design, like you remember the original console, console design was actually pretty much a copy of the Atari Falcon Microbox 30/40 computer from 1993.
Because I know exactly what that looks like.
Yeah, well, you'll see an image of the PlayStation 2 and the Atari Falcon Microbox side by side. And if you look at not on my screen.
Oh,
but there, I looked up images online, and when you look at the image side by side, it literally looks like the exact same thing, except the Atari was white.
Oh yeah,
the Atari was white and the PlayStation was black.
This thing's weird looking.
Yeah,
I knew this thing came out. Look at this.
Yeah, so that was
Atari
just
had a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah, but it was really interesting that they would have built their console based off an Atari, Atari design essentially. So that's really interesting. And then the very last thing that you may or may not have known about the PlayStation 2 is that there was a man in Great Britain who was so obsessed with his PlayStation 2.
Oh no.
His original name was Dan Holmes. He had his name legally changed to Mr. PlayStation 2.
That is fantastic.
And
yeah.
And I'm not done. He loved his PlayStation 2 so much that he went to a church and asked if the pastor would marry them.
Wow. So the hard drive slot did get some usage before the hard drive. Oh.
Well, maybe for Mr. PlayStation 2.
Hey-o. Dumb name to change itself to. At least name it like Dan PS2. That was his Mr. PlayStation 2. He better have beaten and owned. Well, let me rephrase that. He better have completed every PlayStation game there is if you're going to rename yourself Mr. PlayStation 2.
Well, maybe we should get him on the show.
I would love to.
Mr. PlayStation 2, if you're listening, we would love to have you on the podcast. Just send us an email at theretrogamers.com. We will happily have you on the show. And that is this week's Did You Know?
And these were fun. All right. So, PlayStation 2. We're going to start to get ready. We're heading into port. We're not there yet, but and for a system that was the #1 selling systems, it's got to have some top selling games.
Yes, and as we head into port, my first question is: will it, especially considering what's going on today, will they even let us into port? Is question.
They're dropping PS3 kits or PS1 kits as we speak.
Yes, there we go. Well, and then we're perfectly fine. So the top 10 best-selling PlayStation 2 games, compliments of VGCharts.com. Thank you, VG Charts, for that bit of information. Just wanted to give them a shout out.
What VG stands for?
What?
Wonder what VG stands for.
Very good charts.
I like it. All right, cool. Let's do
Very good charts. With a Z at the end, by the way, not an S. Very good charts. So the top 10 best-selling PlayStation 2 games. Number 10 actually is a game that I own and probably one of my favorite games on the PlayStation 2. And we're talking about the original Kingdom Hearts.
Wow, only number 10. I would have thought that'd be higher. Okay.
No, it was number 10 with 6.4 million units sold.
I will forever be stuck in the Thousand Acre Woods.
Oh, that level wasn't even that hard.
I'm not saying it was hard. That's just where I stopped.
That's just where you stopped. Okay. Well, fair enough. I managed. That's one of the many games I completed. So 6.4 million units, sitting at number 10.
Okay.
Number 9. This is a series that I know became very, very popular, probably because of the PlayStation 2. Medal of Honor Frontline, 6.83 million units sold.
Okay. Very good. I enjoyed the PS1 games more, but definitely PS2. I played the PS2 games, and they were really good.
Okay.
All right.
Sneaking up over it slightly with 6.9 million units, just a extra 10,000 units. Need for Speed Underground 2.
Okay.
Yeah. Now the Need for Speed series was always very popular. So
generated a movie.
Yep. And sliding 300,000 units above that was the original Need for Speed Underground
Oh
at
wow,
7.2 million
that's
units.
funny. Okay.
Yep. So that one hit up number seven.
Yeah.
Number six, one game that I do own and I really want to play and I still haven't played, Final Fantasy X came in
Yes.
at number six with 8 million units sold.
All right. All right. Strong showing.
Yep. Um, Going up to number five. Now the top five are split between two series, two game
Really?
franchises.
All
Yep.
right. Let me think. I'm one. I won't say him yet. But I'm just doing my head. I can
Yeah.
think of one.
One you know right off the bat. I know you want. I know you know one of them.
I could probably. Oh, I think I know the other one.
Okay.
Um. All right. Let's see.
Got it. You got it. Okay.
I guess so. I have
Number
nothing to write down.
five with 11.66 million units sold is Gran Turismo 4.
I was way off on both of them. Okay. I didn't even think of Gran Turismo. I forgot about Gran Turismo. Okay. Yeah. No, Gran Turismo was fantastic on the PS1, even better on the PS2. Yep.
Yep. Yeah, no, insanely popular
What
on
the
the
hell is the
PlayStation 2.
other franchise?
Oh,
All right,
you're gonna know right now with number four, 13.1 million units sold, and we talked about it at one point in the previous segment. Grand Theft Auto 3.
Okay. Wow. Those not the two franchises I would have thought of, but two that makes sense. Two that
Okay.
totally make sense.
Well, what were the two franchises you were thinking of?
I was figuring a couple of the Final Fantasy games and the God of War series.
God of War, I think, was number 11. So
Ooh,
just missed
just
out on
missed
the
it.
top
Oh,
10.
sorry, Kratos. I love God of War. Oh
Yeah.
man.
Number three,
Hmm.
Gran Turismo 3 A spec sold 15 million units,
Okay.
14.98. So 15 million units at number
Okay.
three. Number two, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, 16.1 million units.
Gotta love the 80s.
You do. And topping the list of the top 10 best-selling PlayStation 2 games of all time, number one, you just shook the whole. You're shaking the camera.
Yeah, I know.
It's like there's an earthquake. That's supposed to happen on my end. I claim that.
It's mine.
Mine. Number one, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, 20.8 million units.
Wow.
4.5 million units more than Vice City to claim the number one spot in the top 10 best-selling PlayStation 2 games.
Not too shabby.
Not at all. And talking about Grand Theft Auto, it's funny. I don't have San Andreas, but I do have I still have my original Grand Theft Auto 3 that I bought, and I have Vice
Nice.
City.
Very
Nice.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
they put out
great
those
games.
GTA 3, Vice City. They even put Liberty City Stories, like the PSP games. They released them on the PS2. And they still sell because you can get them on the PS4, the PS2 versions.
Yeah.
They still sell. In fact, I even think it was like $2 each one day. I bought them and downloaded them. But speaking about, and that's a great top 10. I mean, all of them deserve those top 10. Like I said, though, you're saying it was probably just missed the cut. God of War. I remember playing the first God of War. I mean, I was obsessed with God of War. Up until like Ascension. Fantastic, kind of just a hack and slash game. Talking about this now, I kind of now want to go back and play, of course. Some other games that I think are just some key games. Of course, the WWE games that were on there were some great series. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Well, it's funny. The WWE series, because I told you I'm trying to collect every wrestling game.
Mm-hmm.
On the PlayStation 2, it went all the way up to SmackDown versus Raw 2009. So there were one, two,
yeah, because then it went to WWE 2K. Yeah.
Right. So then there were 9 WWE SmackDown games on the PlayStation 2. I have the first 7 because at that point I had switched over to Xbox 360. So then I have like 2008, 2009 on 360.
Oh, I forgot to get that's right. They came out then, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, definitely the SmackDown series. I mean, going back to the original SmackDown on PlayStation 1.
That's what got me to get a PS1.
Right, which got all of us hooked, and then SmackDown 2, which was far superior. But then, once we hit the PlayStation 2, like these games were just amazing. Like they were just there's so much. There was so much to do in them. It was great. I mean, just looking at the first one, Just Bring It. On the back, you had Michael Cole and Taz that would do the commentary.
Back when Cole was good.
and there were over 70 matches that
I
you can
can't
choose
believe
from.
that. I remember we talked about this
Yeah,
once before. I got to go back and double check that. I mean,
like
I'm sure
look at
it's
that.
right, but
Yeah, 70 matches. I mean, if you go look, I have the
yeah.
instruction booklet still and
Well, there you
everything.
go.
It's like,
Do you have the
um,
receipts?
no, I don't. I'm sorry. This one I threw out. Larry, for those of you who don't know, like on when I open up some of my old retro games,
It's ridiculous.
it's funny because I would just tuck the receipt into the case in
Yeah.
case I needed to return it, and they would just stay there. So like I have receipts that are like 25 or 30 years old,
It's I think it's an illness, but
which
whatever.
is kind of what you just didn't take care of your games. Also, one really cool
How
thing to
dare
point
you?
out
Yes.
as we talk about games is that every
Oh
PlayStation
yeah.
2 case had a slot
Yep.
to hold a memory card because
Yes.
it would get to a certain point where your memory card could only hold so many games. So, for example, on the actual boxes for PlayStation 2, it would tell you how much space on the memory card it needed to save for. So, like for this game, for SmackDown Just Bring It, it was 400 megabytes for
That's
a
good.
save. Now, granted, you had not 400 megabytes,
Kilobytes.
4 megabytes.
Oh, 4 megabytes. Okay.
Yeah, 4 megabytes.
So it took up half the
And
memory card.
right, and like this game is 3 megabytes, so you're talking about like this would be one memory card right here.
Yeah, that's
One
crazy.
memory. So you had depending on what games you played, you had to buy a lot of memory cards
Nope.
until you got third parties. Because remember, third parties started
Oh,
selling
the bigger ones. Yeah.
larger ones. Like I have one. I have a third party. I think from I want to say Mad Cats from back then.
Oh, Megats was awesome. They were a
Yeah,
fantastic third
like
party company.
I was so happy back then because I got a 32
There
megabyte
you
memory
go.
card. I was like, ooh, I can save more than 2 games.
Is that the one that had the numbers on it and like you had to like switch like depending on like memory card 1, 2?
No, this one was a full
Okay.
32.
Oh, okay. All right.
And it had like
Some
that
of
clear
those.
blue shell, so you can see the
Oh,
the little
fancy.
board
That's
inside.
very 90s there, kids.
Very,
90s.
very. It reminds me of those cell phones that used to be clear.
Yeah. Yes.
Or not cell phones, just regular phones.
Yeah. So some of the other games to note, the Devil May Cry series
Of
on the
course.
PS2. Absolutely. And I'm actually looking at the list of PS2 games that I own. I couldn't find, which worries me because I can't actually find the discs, but I do have a list here back in the day. Yep. Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3, of course. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of Contra games on there. And talking about wrestling games, Rumble Roses. Do you have that? That was like the women's wrestling game?
No, I don't have Rumble Roses, but just pulling out, I literally pulled out my some of my collection to show off.
Okay, yeah, show it.
But no Rumble Roses. But do you remember Backyard Wrestling? Don't try this at home.
I have. I think I have Backyard Wrestling 2 on Xbox. That was
that one? There Goes the Neighborhood.
Yes.
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 I never bought that one, but I definitely have this Backyard Wrestling, which is.
Does that one have the Insane Clown Posse?
I think so.
Or that would have Major Guns.
I don't remember, but let's see, because they have. Oh yeah, well.
Yeah,
I don't know if that counts.
Yep. No, that's them.
Oh, Shaggy 2 Dope. Yep.
Yep.
He's definitely in it. But what I love on the back of it is that, like, the description on the back: Jackass meets the squared circle in America's backyard.
Basically, what idiots would do backyard wrestling? So stupid.
It really is, really, really dumb. But the other just really quickly, the other wrestling games, the Legends of Wrestling franchise, which I really enjoyed.
And I did we talked about it once before. I did. They came to Delphi University, my college. Acclaim or Activision.
That was Acclaim.
Acclaim. Came to my college to do a survey, like they did like a quick survey. Hey, if we made a wrestling game with Legends, what would you like? And then check them off. And that's when I ended up. They gave out a free game for your time, and that's when I discovered Burnout, which was another awesome series on the PS2.
Of course, on the cover you see some of the wrestling greats and maybe one questionable person up there in the top right.
Terry Funk, yeah.
The other game also that I had is you remember TNA Impact?
I never owned that one. Was that good?
Yeah, their first wrestling game. It was decent. It was very basic.
Okay. Fair.
They were hoping for a franchise, but unfortunately that never took off. But it was cool to see, especially at that time when they were the only other company around besides WWE. It was cool to see,
totally.
another wrestling game, which
totally.
was nice. Also, first time you got the opportunity to play as AJ Styles in a game.
Yes, true.
Oh, it's nice. But yeah, those are the wrestling games that I have.
All right, cool. Some of the games again that I owned, just to note here, the Soul Calibur series, Soul Calibur 3.
Yes.
Which was fantastic.
Yep.
Spy Hunter. I mentioned it earlier.
Never played it.
I'm telling you, folks, if you have a PS2, and you go out and get the remake Spy Hunter. Yep. The one I got actually came with a CD as well, Saliva. You want to talk about old school, early 2000s. Did basically a song for it, but the game itself is phenomenal. It's a great game. I highly recommend it. And then you got a lot of the classic, like the Namco Museum 50th Anniversary, Sega Genesis, Capcom Classic Collections,
Midway had
all of those SNK Arcade stuff like that. But the one I want to mention just real quick that I think ended up taking off into what we now know as Guitar Hero and Rock Band and stuff are two games called Frequency and Amplitude.
I had both of those.
So did I. And they were these rhythm games. That played just without a guitar or without you just had to hit the buttons, but it was techno. It was techno music. We used to play that just ad nauseum.
Yeah, I love that game. And to your point, it kind of birthed. Hold on, I'm stopping my cat from attacking. No, don't jump down. Stay. Yeah, they don't listen. That really Frequency and Amplitude, I think, were the birth of the music games, and actually one of the games I was going to show off is Guitar Hero was by far I loved Guitar Hero on PlayStation 2, but Rock the 80s was by far my favorite one.
Oh God, I don't even remember that one.
Yeah, Rock. It was all 80s soundtrack made me very happy. Right. I don't have a Guitar Hero guitar anymore, but pulling this game out makes me want to go get one so I can play it. But I do want to share, as Larry and I talked about.
Please tell me there's a receipt in there.
There's a receipt.
Look at that. Oh, what else did you buy that day?
No, it's telling me what I traded in that day to buy Guitar Hero.
How many games did you trade in?
6.
How much was Guitar Hero?
Guitar Hero was $50.
Did it come with the guitar back then?
No, I don't. This was just the game, because I had the guitar from Guitar Hero 2.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah.
But just to share what I traded in to buy oh wow, there's a poster.
Probably signed by somebody.
No, you know what? I don't think I've ever opened it.
Look at that.
Look. Yeah.
Look at that is pretty. What the hell is going on?
Rocks the 80s poster.
Good Lord. Get that
anyway. The games I traded in order to buy this was, and this was another game that was really awesome on the PlayStation 2.
Yeah, it was great to trade it in.
Well, look, Spider-Man 2, the movie.
Ooh.
The movie game? The Spider-Man movie games on the PlayStation 2 were really, really good.
Pulling these out of now.
So I traded in Spider-Man 2, Halo, because I didn't like Halo.
Okay.
Was Karaoke Revolution and Karaoke Revolution Party.
Okay.
The PS2 microphone, because at that point I didn't need it.
Okay, yeah.
And the Warriors for Xbox. I traded all those games in for and that still wasn't enough.
Oh, I
still have to put cash now. Because Spider-Man 2, they only gave me $2 for.
Nice. What was it? GameSpot?
I went EB Games.
Oh, that's true. You're right. I'm sorry. I'm not thinking in the time. Yep.
Right. EB Games. So Guitar Hero Rock the 80s, definitely an awesome one.
That is fantastic.
And then a couple other ones that I personally wanted to point out from my collection, or a few more, was remember the Clock Tower series on the original PlayStation that I always loved? They made a sequel on the PlayStation 2, Clock Tower 3. And this one to me was by far the best of the Clock Tower games, because it played like a third person perspective, like a Tomb Raider, whereas the first two Clock Towers, they were kind of side scrolling, and they were a lot slower because you were kind of investigating things. This one just ran like a standard 3D kind of game. I'd be remiss if I don't bring up Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. Mostly because I have not finished it, and I refuse to start Kingdom Hearts 2 until I'm done with this. And I still have Kingdom Hearts 2. I still have 2 sitting here waiting to be played.
But 2 technically came out before Chain of Memory.
I know, but Chain of Memories is 1.5. It has a story in between.
I am aware of that, but at the time you wouldn't have known that. You got to think fourth dimensionally.
I understand that, but you know what? It's just the way that my brain works. So Chain of Memories is on my list of games to finish. One of the other games that I loved playing because I was a huge fan of the TV show. Granted, this is not an amazing game, and no, I did not finish it. 24, where you got to play as Jack Bauer.
There you go. Is that a 2K?
With a receipt.
Oh my god! Is that the only game you bought that day?
It's the only game I bought that day, and it was $20.
Oh, that's not bad.
Oh, I had It was like a promo.
Use promo code boop.
Thank you. Right. Thank you. 2K. 2K made the 24 game.
Well, you
what?
I was gonna say, you got some games there that you can add to the contest.
No. I was just gonna say between 24 and Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, like those are two games like I can go back and finish for the contest. And then the last one that I wanted to bring up in terms of games that I loved and adored, even though I think I had this on GameCube before I got it on PlayStation 2, but I have to do it because you know how much I love Frank and for the Better Half podcast, I have to bring up Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance. Yes. Because he got to play through this game with me, only to see the very disappointing ending of basically a black screen telling you, "Hey, you finished this, great. Now buy the next game."
Hey, I have the next game. If you want, next time you're in town, maybe you and Frank can play the next one.
Well, I do, and I have Baldur's Gate 2.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Dark Alliance 2, yes, I do.
Yep. I was going to mention Baldur's Gate series,
Yeah, those were a lot of the games that really I paid attention to. It was interesting because when I was going through my library, I was trying to figure out, I was like, why don't I have more of the X, Y, and Z on the PS2? And I realized, I'm like, at the time, I was buying stuff for PS2 and Dreamcast and N64, and then once Xbox and GameCube came out, we're buying games for all three systems that were available on all three systems. So even though I didn't have them on PlayStation 2, people may be like, well, why didn't you play this, that, and the other? I'll be like, because I probably played it on Xbox, GameCube.
Exactly. Some of the other ones, some from my collection, and I apologize, I don't have the games, but from my collection to point out, if you have your hands on them, R-Type Final. Great series. R-Type. In fact, I did a Kickstarter, which they are in development for R-Type Final 2, a sequel to it. And then a couple of the entries into the Shining Force series, which they play a little different, but still worth it. Shining Force Neo. Neo was kind of like how the games on the Super Nintendo had Super in it. There were a few games on the PS2 that went with like Neo, Shining Force Neo, Neo Contra. Those are two that I had. And then Shining Tears is another great game.
Oh yeah, I heard that was a good one.
Yep. And two more to mention real quick here. Gradius 5 I had on the PS2, which is a phenomenal Gradius game.
Those are your loves right there.
Yep. And Shadow of the Colossus, which they remade for the PS4. But if you never played Shadow of the Colossus, I'm pretty sure it is free for PlayStation Plus members from March.
That is correct. It is free for March. So go get it because it's free.
Absolutely.
But it also brings up an interesting question, Larry, because I am currently playing Shadow of the Colossus on PS4. Now, does that count towards our retro game contest, even though it was remade for the PS4?
It is not a remake. What do you want to call it? Like a remastered?
Remastered.
So it's because it's remastered, we will allow it.
Okay, so remakes aren't allowed, remasters are allowed. Okay.
Yeah, because
I'm currently 3 Colossi in to Shadow of the Colossus, and let me tell you something. The game, and I'm playing the new one on the PS4. The game is stunning.
Oh,
I get so distracted by the scenery that I keep dying. Like the Colossus is killing me because I'm like, wow. I was like, look at that deep splat. And I'm like, oh.
And it was like that on the PS2. Yeah. I was doing that on the PS2. I'm like, this game is beautifully made and looks great. And yeah, when I got, and actually, Shadow is one of those games I did this to. Had it on the PS2, bought it again on the PS3. Bought it again on the PS4. So, each one had a graphical upgrade. So yeah, we'll count that one. Unlike, I think, Final Fantasy VII demo, which you played recently.
Yeah.
Actually, I played it as well, which I think is different enough where we wouldn't have counted that if the game was already released.
Yeah,
Um,
no.
yeah,
That one is an actual remake, and you can tell. You
yeah.
can obviously tell. But let me tell you something. Since we're talking about that,
Before we get into that, I just want to say just to wrap up the PS2 part.
yes.
Just real quick, what's the maybe oddest game that you ever owned for the PS2?
Oh,
Either oddest, weirdest, or one that you really wouldn't want to admit until right now.
mm, I can't think of one unless Sneak King was on the PS2.
That was only on Xbox
360. Oh,
So for me, Britney's Dance Beat.
oh yeah, that makes sense for you. What? Wait, wasn't there a Spice Girls game
On the PS1.
Oh, my mistake.
And it was terrible.
I really can't think of one. I mean, that I would be maybe Karaoke Revolution because I'm thinking back to like why would I have that?
Okay.
But I also remember that I don't remember if that's what I used when like people would come over to hang out, like if we had like a party at the apartment or something.
So. Let's just sitting there by yourself singing.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm like I don't understand. I think I also had the American Idol game on PlayStation 2. I may have. Well, I mean, it kind of went with the Karaoke Revolution thing.
This is true.
And I will say it was kind of fun to hear Simon insult you
Okay.
because that's all he would do.
Odd.
Very. I skipped over Dance Dance Revolution on PS2 because I had it for Dreamcast. But I did have the Dance Dance Revolution game that I think I played twice.
All right.
But yeah, and that's in terms of maybe embarrassing games. But getting back to
Final Fantasy, which is on the PS4.
Yeah, Final Fantasy VII demo dropped earlier this week or last week. And I did a live stream of the entire demo on our page. You can look it up, facebook.com/retrogamerspodcast. It's there. I have to say, like, I was in awe of everything I did.
Stunning.
I mean, first off, the graphics are gorgeous and everything like that, but the gameplay too. It's like, I think somebody who was watching the stream, Dallas Panda, actually said, she's like, "Wow, it feels like I'm watching a movie," and I'm like, "Yeah, you're absolutely right." It does. It looks very, very cinematic, and at certain points, it was hard for me to tell when I was controlling the characters.
Yeah, I did the same thing happen to me.
Yeah, because I would just sit there and I'm like, and then he's just standing still. I'm like, oh wait, yeah, that's right. I have to go.
I gotta move.
But yeah, no. I mean, the game comes out April 10th. April's going to be a very busy month for both of us because Final Fantasy VII Remake comes out, and then a week later we get Resident Evil 3.
Oh, really? It's coming out that quickly?
Well, remember, Final Fantasy VII got pushed back a month, so now they wound up with like not competing dates, but they're close enough. So Final Fantasy VII. I was sold on it when they announced it. I pre-ordered it. It just, cannot wait.
I played the demo and I'm sold as well. I really wasn't having plans to buy it right away, probably, but I'll probably end up buying it right away.
Yeah, and after playing it, it made me understand why they didn't remake the entire game yet. This one was 5 years in the making. Yeah, I mean, the game itself is massive. I mean, I can see this having at least 3 or 4 releases before you get through the entire game.
Like each disc is going to be a release.
Basically.
It's 3 or 4 discs originally. 3?
That one was 3 discs. Final Fantasy VIII was 4 discs.
That's right.
Which is another game I need to go back and finish.
So that was awesome. Check it out. Like Anthony said, check it out on our Facebook page. And then one of the final things I want to talk about is because I was at Game On, so I did pick up some interesting stuff. And I got to say, very interesting stuff. So,
such as
here's first of all, this is more of a
Did you get a PlayStation 2 iToy?
No, but I think I did own one.
Oh, I have one. A friend of mine at work gave it to me.
Oh, nice. No, but I think I owned an iToy. I think so.
Nice.
Okay, so this one they actually put on the side for me because I backed the Kickstarter for this. It is Jim Power and the Lost Dimension in 3D.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And the game, of course, obviously you can see it's a physical release. The Kickstarter is remaking, recoding from the ground up the Super Nintendo version, but they're also making an NES version, a Genesis, a TurboGrafx CD, and an Amiga CD32 versions.
Wow.
Which is
Okay.
pretty cool. And the Genesis one was like never released before, and it's a bit of a different game. So
Nice.
this is more of a inside joke. Now the next two I'm going to show are actually repros. So someone put a ROM on a SNES cart, and you can play it. So this first one is called, I'm always mispronounce this, Hagney.
I've never played that.
Yeah, no, it's a bit of a run and slash type game.
Okay.
A little hard to explain, but it's from Hudson Soft. It was an actual, like the actual game itself, I think goes for like a couple $100. But this
Nice.
was a repro, so that's, and it is, I don't know why it's rated K to A. That is not correct.
Yes, it is.
This yeah, I'll show this one now. So this is an absolute reproduction. In fact, this is a hack. This is a homebrew.
Okay.
And I still have no idea what it's about, but I saw it and I had to pick it up. And you're going to love it. The Legend of Zelda, Goddess of Wisdom.
Ooh, I want that.
From what I read, it basically plays like Link to the Past. The first 30 minutes of the game feels like Link to the Past. Okay. But then after that, they say there's enough, like, I think the dungeons are slightly different. There's a new statue puzzle element that's in this that they programmed into it. But beyond that, I don't know much else to it. I just love the black and the dark cover to it.
Yeah, no, that's a really cool cover.
Yeah, so I got to look more into that, and I'll give that a shot on whatever system I end up getting, because who knows when they're coming out, because we weren't picked for any betas. And then finally, what just happened?
Cat.
Rude.
Yeah.
And then knocking everything over now.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw this, and I had to pick this game up. Never heard of it.
She's trying to stand on the PlayStation 2 games that are folded on the side, so they're just everything's falling.
This game caught my eye from Capcom, and I'm like, Capcom put games out like this? And I had to pick it up. And tell me if you ever saw this. This is a 3-disc PS1 game called Fox Hunt.
Yes, I have heard of this game.
I never heard of this game before.
Yes, I have definitely heard of it.
It's a full motion video game. You know, like it came out in 96, so very like, I mean, they hired actors to play the game. And it says it looks like a movie, but don't just sit there. It's interactive comedy spy thriller. Shot in 16 millimeter, it's got the look and feel of a fantasy film, the sweeping plot and the complex characters, dueling Elvises, and a bad guy in mittens. I'm sold.
Yep. That sounds like a game you would play.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's in great condition here. As you can see, there's
it's excellent.
One of the things. So yeah, so it caught my eye, especially from Capcom. I'm like, I got to pick that one up, which I did. So I'm really looking forward to playing it. And we tried it real quick on a PS2. And it looks like it's a terrible game, but I'm going to give it a shot anyway at some point.
Please live stream that.
I'm going to try to.
Very nice.
And with that, I think that's about it.
All right. Well, my cats are destroying. My cats are destroying my house.
Okay, and as Anthony goes to figure out what just fell over, that sounded like the TV.
I don't know. I think the entire living room just fell over.
So first and foremost, folks, we just want to mention every Friday for the next 27 weeks at this point, you can find a Flashback Friday. We had to take down the first 28 episodes of the podcast for storage reasons, but we fixed that problem. And now, for the next 27 weeks, because one's already up, we're going to be putting back those first 28 episodes. So on our Facebook page, on our YouTube page, and wherever you listen to podcasts, you're now going to get 2 episodes for the price of one.
Well, and on our YouTube page, can I just say that it will not be the first 28 episodes. It'll actually be the first 99, because we did not start on YouTube until episode 100. So we will be releasing the original 99, first 99
Okay,
episodes that were only audio recording.
So for the next year and a half. All right. So Anthony, if you got to go, I can wrap this up if you need to.
I think my house is falling apart, and there's no earthquake causing it. Well, I don't know. Link is kind of big. But
what do you cats do you owe your cats money?
No, but I think they owe each other, but they're going after each other. So I gotta fight. I gotta break up. I've basically got backyard wrestling. Don't try this at home. Happening in my house right now with 2 cats. So
backyard kitty wrestling.
Yes.
All right. So so check it out every Friday, YouTube and wherever you listen to the podcast. We got classic episodes, plus every Tuesday the new ones drop. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube at Retro Gamers Podcast, Twitter at Retro Gamers Pod, and him with the email on the website.
Email at theretrogamers.com, or just visit us at theretrogamers.com.
And with that, Anthony's going to go break up a couple of felines, and we will catch you right here next week on the Retro Gamers Podcast.